Nevada has always been more than a state. It has been a myth, a powerful promise whispered on the winds sweeping across the desert. The Silver State, battle-born, a land of rugged individualism, of limitless horizons, a final refuge from the burdens of high taxes, suffocating regulation, and the crushing cost of living on the coasts. It is the promise of a fresh start, a blank slate etched in the defiant neon glow of Las Vegas and the quiet, stoic dignity of the high desert. For generations, the dream of home ownership here was the ultimate gamble, but one that felt wonderfully, exhilaratingly attainable. A modest house under a vast, perpetually blue sky, a piece of the American frontier to call one's own, a place where hard work could still buy a piece of the dream. But in 2025, that fever dream is breaking. The desert sun, once a symbol of endless opportunity and growth, now feels oppressive, baking the deep, spreading cracks in a crumbling facade. Beneath the shimmering spectacle of prosperity, a brutal, undeniable truth has taken hold. The dream of an affordable haven in the desert is becoming a cruel mirage, shimmering tantalizingly on the horizon, only to dissolve into the dust of economic hardship upon approach. The very forces that are hollowing out the nation, rampant, unchecked inflation, unprecedented resource scarcity, and a systemic dismantling of the middle class have converged on this state with a particular and devastating vengeance. The foundations of its legendary boom-and-bust economy are cracking under the strain, and the promise of a better life is proving to be as fleeting and illusory as a jackpot win on a casino floor. So, where in this precarious, unforgiving landscape can one find the best place to plant roots? Where can the dream of a Nevada home still be realized? Join us as we count down the top 10 cities to buy a home in Nevada right now. A journey not into a glossy real estate catalog, but into the very heart of a dream on the verge of a silent, agonizing collapse. Number 10. Pahrump. For decades, Pahrump has represented the quintessential Nevada ideal, a sun-beaten refuge for the fiercely independent, a place where land was cheap and the rules were few. It was the last bastion for those seeking to escape the ever-encroaching sprawl and rising costs of Las Vegas, a place to build a life on one's own terms, free from the judgment and constraints of the city. But that dream is drying up, quite literally. Pahrump's very existence is predicated on a finite, fragile underground aquifer, and as its population has swelled with economic refugees and the regional megadrought has intensified, that lifeline is being stretched to its absolute breaking point. The parched, cracked earth is a constant, visible reminder that the town's future is built on borrowed water. Today, buying a home in Pahrump is no longer a simple bet on affordability. It's a high-stakes gamble against hydrology, a wager that the wells won't run dry before the 30-year mortgage is paid off, leaving behind a ghost community stranded in a landscape of beautiful but ultimately brutal scarcity.
Number 9. Elko. Deep in the heart of Nevada's Great Basin, Elko stands as a rugged monument to the state's foundational mining legacy. It is a city whose fortunes rise and fall with the rhythm of the global commodities market. When the price of gold is high, Elko booms. High-paying jobs are plentiful, the local bars are full, and new housing developments sprout from the sagebrush as if by magic. This is the siren song of the boomtown, the intoxicating promise of quick prosperity. But the history of the American West is littered with the ghosts of such towns, and Elko is perpetually haunted by the specter of the inevitable bust. When the price of gold falters on a trading floor in London or Shanghai, the town holds its collective breath. The dream of a mortgage, taken on with confidence during the good times, can quickly become a ball and chain of financial ruin when the mines lay off workers and the high wages evaporate overnight. To buy a home in Elko is to tie your family's fate to the volatile, unpredictable whims of a market thousands of miles away, to live with the constant, gnawing uncertainty that the prosperity of today could become the foreclosure notice of tomorrow. Number 8. Mesquite. Nestled on the Arizona border, a sun-drenched oasis against a backdrop of stark desert mesas, Mesquite has branded itself as a paradise for America's retirees. With its meticulously manicured golf courses, its friendly small-scale casinos, and its perpetually warm climate, it promised a golden age of affordable, leisurely living. For years, it delivered on that promise, drawing thousands of seniors looking to stretch their fixed incomes. But in the grip of the new economic reality, that promise is fraying at the edges. The very people who flock to Mesquite for its affordability, retirees on Social Security and fixed pensions, are now the most vulnerable to the ravages of inflation. Skyrocketing property taxes, surging healthcare premiums, and the relentless rise in the cost of everyday goods are devouring their life savings. The quiet desperation of the elderly is palpable, as they are forced to make impossible choices between vital medication and home maintenance, between a round of golf and a full grocery cart. The dream of a peaceful, worry-free retirement has been replaced by a daily, exhausting battle against an inflation rate that their fixed incomes were never designed to withstand. Number 7. Sparks. For generations, Sparks was the unpretentious working-class neighbor to Reno, the biggest little city. It was the place you moved when Reno became too expensive, a solid community built on the bedrock of blue-collar stability and affordable single-family homes with yards for the kids to play in. But the long shadow of gentrification now looms over the city, as Reno has aggressively and successfully rebranded itself as the next Silicon Valley. The tidal wave of tech money and Bay Area home equity has crashed over the city limits and is now flooding the neighborhoods of Sparks. Housing prices have skyrocketed at a pace that is simply breathtaking, pushing out the very nurses, mechanics, and warehouse workers whose families have called the city home for decades. The affordability that was once Sparks' greatest asset and its core identity is being systematically erased one cash offer at a time. To attempt to buy a home here now is to enter a brutal bidding war against forces you cannot possibly compete with, to watch the community you invested in transform into something unrecognizable and unaffordable before your very eyes.
Number 6. Carson City. As the state capital, Carson City has always offered a protective bubble of security in a state defined by its inherent volatility. The steady, reliable engine of government employment provided a crucial buffer against the wild boom and bust cycles that plagued the rest of Nevada. But in 2025, that bubble feels increasingly fragile and thin. The city has become an island of perceived stability in a raging sea of economic precarity. While the government jobs provide a floor, the surrounding private sector, the service industry, retail, and local businesses, is crumbling under the weight of inflation and stagnant wages. The cost of living in the capital, once quite reasonable, has begun to climb relentlessly, driven by the same pressures affecting the entire region. Buying a home in Carson City feels less like a prudent investment in a stable future and more like a desperate, frantic attempt to find high ground as the economic floodwaters continue to rise around you. Number 5. Boulder City. Boulder City is an artifact, a living museum piece from a different American era. Forged in the crucible of the Great Depression during the construction of the Hoover Dam, it stands as one of the only cities in Nevada where gambling is illegal. This has endowed it with a unique, wholesome, small-town character, a world away from the neon-soaked chaos of Las Vegas just over the hill. Its strict, controlled growth policies and strong community bonds have long made it one of the most desirable places to live in the state. But this idyllic isolation cannot shield it from the harsh realities of the modern economy. It has become a beautiful cage, but the cost of entry is soaring. With a limited local economy and an even more limited housing stock, prices have become completely disconnected from the wages of local workers, turning the city into an exclusive enclave of the affluent and wealthy retirees who can afford to buy their way into its protected bubble. For the average working family, the dream of a life in this historic town is just that, a dream, a postcard from a past that is no longer accessible. Number 4. Henderson.
For years, national magazines have showered Henderson with accolades. One of the safest cities in America, a best place to raise a family. It is the crown jewel of American suburban planning, a sprawling oasis of pristine parks, flawlessly manicured lawns, and top-rated schools, all meticulously designed for an idealized version of the American dream. But this master plan paradise comes at a master plan price. The median home price has surged to levels that are now laughably out of reach for the average service worker who powers the nearby Las Vegas Strip. Life in Henderson has become a performance of prosperity, governed by the iron fist of homeowners associations that dictate every minute detail of suburban life. Beneath this polished veneer of perfection lies a deep, unspoken well of financial anxiety. Families are stretched to the breaking point, house poor, and one unexpected medical bill or car repair away from disaster, all while projecting an image of effortless suburban success to their neighbors. The pressure is immense, a quiet desperation to keep up appearances in a city that has become a monument to an increasingly unattainable ideal.
Number 3. Reno. The biggest little city in the world attempted a grand reinvention, marketing itself as a vibrant, more affordable alternative to the suffocating expense of Silicon Valley. Tech giants like Tesla, Apple, and Google set up massive operations in the region, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed like Reno had hit the ultimate jackpot. But in its frantic rush to attract the tech boom, Reno didn't just import jobs, it imported all of Silicon Valley's most destructive pathologies. The housing market has transformed into a blood sport, with an endless stream of cash offers from out-of-state buyers, pushing prices to astronomical levels that bear no relationship to local incomes. A devastating homelessness crisis has exploded onto the streets, a stark and visible indictment of the city's new Gilded Age. The very soul of Reno is now caught in a brutal tug-of-war between the new wave of transient tech wealth and the long-time working-class residents who have been unceremoniously priced out and displaced from their own city. Reno didn't escape the problems of its neighbor to the west. It simply became a more affordable satellite colony for its dysfunctions. Number 2. Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the ultimate American mirage. For decades, it was a city of boundless, almost mythical opportunity, a place where a person with a strong work ethic, regardless of their background, could find a union job and build a solid middle-class life. But the entire glittering economic model of Las Vegas is built on a house of cards. The economic model of Las Vegas is built on a house of cards. The economic model of Las Vegas is built on a house of cards, the discretionary spending of the American tourist. And as the wallets of average Americans have been squeezed dry by relentless inflation, Las Vegas has been one of the first and hardest hit. The service workers who form the city's backbone, the housekeepers, cocktail waitresses, bellhops, and line cooks, are living in a state of perpetual precarity. Their wages have stagnated while the cost of rent, gas, and food has exploded. The silent hunger behind the all-you-can-eat buffet lines is the city's darkest, most closely guarded secret. To buy a home in Las Vegas now is to make a terrifying bet not just on your own job security, but on the economic health and consumer confidence of the entire nation, a gamble that, for the first time, feels increasingly unwinnable. Number 1. Incline Village, Lake Tahoe. Here, on the crystalline, sapphire-blue shores of Lake Tahoe, the Nevada dream doesn't just die, it is openly and cruelly mocked. Incline Village is not a community in the traditional sense. It has become a portfolio asset for the global 1%, a collection of sprawling, empty ghost mansions owned by Silicon Valley billionaires, international financiers, and foreign oligarchs who might visit for 2 weeks a year. The natural beauty is breathtaking, unparalleled, but it is a beauty that is now almost entirely privatized, locked away behind gated communities and private beaches. There is no middle class here.
The local workforce, the teachers, the firefighters, the baristas, the construction workers who serve the ultra-wealthy are treated as a transient servant class, forced into grueling, multi-hour commutes from more affordable towns miles and miles away. Home ownership here is not a dream. It is a statistical impossibility, a cruel joke told at the expense of ordinary people. Incline Village represents the tragic, gilded endgame of the new American economy, a stunningly beautiful place hollowed out by a concentration of wealth so extreme that it has created a permanent, unbridgeable chasm between the haves and the have-nots.
The final reckoning. So where, in the end, is the best place to buy a home in Nevada? The brutal, unavoidable answer is that the question itself has become a relic of a bygone era, a cruel anachronism, and a state where the very concept of an affordable home is slipping away. The search for a paradise in the desert has become a futile and heartbreaking quest because the forces devastating Nevada, stagnant wages, the financialization of housing, extreme and widening wealth inequality, and the critical depletion of vital resources are not local problems. They are national plagues, and Nevada is simply the canary in the coal mine, a stark warning of a future that is rapidly approaching for the rest of the country. The dream of home ownership, once the bedrock of the American middle class and the central promise of post-war prosperity, has been transformed into a high-stakes, predatory gamble, a bet against a system that feels increasingly and deliberately rigged. The desert, in its patient, unforgiving way, is slowly reclaiming the abandoned promises and the crumbling structures of the 20th century. And in the profound silence of these closing communities and unaffordable towns, one can hear the faint, unsettling echo of a future that is running out of time, running out of water, and running out of the very dream it was built upon. The best place to buy a home in Nevada might not be a place at all, but a time that is already past.